The 5 nails in Rome's COFFINETTE. Not forged in war, but hammered in silence. Rome did not die by the sword. It died by 5 fatal decisions, each one a nail driven into the lid of its coffin, sealing its fate long before the barbarians arrived. This is not a story of invasion. It is a story of self-destruction. Of an empire that chose its own end, not in a single moment, but across centuries of decay, corruption, and delusion. The first nail, the abandonment of the Republic, 44 BC. When Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, he didn't just break a law, he shattered the foundation of Rome. The Republic was not just a government. It was a covenant, a balance between Senate, people, and military. But Caesar's dictatorship, followed by the rise of Augustus as princeps, transformed Rome from a republic into a monarchy disguised as a democracy. The Senate remained. The elections continued. But power was no longer earned. It was inherited. And with that shift, the spirit of civic duty died. Citizens stopped seeing themselves as guardians of Rome. They became subjects. And when the state no longer belongs to the people, it belongs to whoever controls the army. The second nail, the professionalization of the army, 1st century AD. Under Marius and later emperors, Rome replaced its citizen soldiers with a professional mercenary force loyal not to the state, but to their general, and to their pay. Soldiers no longer fought for Rome. They fought for gold, and when emperors couldn't pay them, the army turned. The Praetorian Guard, once the protector of the emperor, became a political weapon. They assassinated emperors. They auctioned the throne. In 193 AD, after killing Pertinax, they sold the empire to the highest bidder, Didius Julianus. He ruled for 66 days before being executed. This wasn't governance, it was mercenary rule. And the message was clear. Power wasn't divine. It was for sale. The third nail, economic collapse and hyperinflation, 3rd century AD. By the time of Emperor Diocletian, the Roman economy was in ruins. The denarius, once a silver coin, had become a bronze shell dipped in silver, and even that coating vanished over time. Emperors printed money to pay soldiers and feed the people, but inflation spiraled out of control. In some provinces, a loaf of bread cost millions of denarii. People abandoned currency. They returned to barter. Taxes collapsed. Trade stalled. And the empire, which once thrived on commerce, became a hollow shell, rich in titles, poor in substance. Diocletian tried to fix it with price controls and forced labor. But you cannot legislate trust, and when money loses meaning, so does power. The fourth nail, the division of the empire, 285 AD. Diocletian, in a desperate attempt to save Rome, split the empire into east and west. He believed that 2 smaller empires could be governed more efficiently than one vast one. But he didn't just divide the land, he divided destiny. The Eastern Empire, centered in Nicomedia and later Constantinople, had access to richer trade routes, stronger cities, and a more defensible position. The Western Empire, meanwhile, was left to rot, surrounded by enemies, burdened by debt, and ruled by weak emperors. When Diocletian retired, the system collapsed. The tetrarchy failed, civil wars erupted, and the unity of Rome was gone. The East thrived, the West declined, and no one in Constantinople cared, because for them, Rome was no longer the city on the Tiber. It was the idea. And that idea lived in the East. The fifth and final nail, the loss of belief, during the 4th to 5th century AD. This was not a law, not a battle, not an economic policy. It was a psychological surrender. By the 5th century, the people of Rome no longer believed in Rome. They didn't hate it. They just stopped caring. The panem et circenses system, bread and circuses, kept them distracted, but it didn't inspire loyalty. The elite lived in unimaginable luxury while the poor starved. The military was made up of mercenaries, many of them barbarians, who had been pushed to the edge by Roman corruption. And when Alaric and the Visigoths entered Rome in 410 AD, they didn't burn it. They looted it for 3 days and left. No massacre, no destruction, no end of the world. Just a city that had already stopped believing in itself. The Senate didn't rebel. The people didn't rise. They accepted it. And when Odoacer deposed Romulus Augustulus in 476 AD, he didn't kill him. He sent him to live in Campania with a pension. The Senate didn't protest. The Eastern Emperor, Zeno, didn't send an army. He just moved on. Because for him, Rome had already fallen decades earlier. The deposition of Romulus wasn't a tragedy. It was a bureaucratic update, a formality. The coffin was sealed. The nails were in, and the empire that once ruled the world ended not with a roar, but with a whisper. Today, the story of Rome's fall is still misunderstood. We blame the barbarians. We blame Attila. We blame the Huns. But the truth is that no empire is destroyed from the outside unless it is already broken from within. Rome was broken, not by invasion, but by 5 fatal decisions that eroded its foundation. The death of the Republic, the mercenary army, economic collapse, the division of the empire, the loss of belief. And that's why this story matters today. Because empires don't die in a single battle. They die slowly, in silence, in the choices of those who stop believing in them. Look at modern societies. Look at the distrust in leadership, the inflation, the inequality, the rise of spectacle over substance. The people are not rebelling, yet, but they are tuning out. They are retreating into distraction, into entertainment, into survival. And when a crisis comes, economic, environmental, political, will they defend the system, or will they welcome the alternative? Rome didn't fall in a day. It fell over centuries. And the signs were there. The warning was clear. But no one listened, because it's easier to blame the outsider than to fix the inside. So, what can we learn? First, power must be earned, not bought. When leadership is auctioned, legitimacy dies. Second, economic stability is a foundation of trust. When money loses value, so does faith in the system. Third, citizenship must be meaningful. When people stop believing they are part of something greater, they stop defending it. Fourth, symbols matter. The barbarians didn't hate Rome. They wanted to wear its clothes, speak its language, and rule in its name, because the idea of Rome was still powerful, even when the reality was not. And finally, empires don't end with a bang. They end with a whisper, with a decision not to fight, with a choice to walk away. If this video opened your eyes, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. Next time, where were the secret tunnels where Rome chose its emperors? And who controlled them?